Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. আমার নাম Adel Mozammel and welcome to the Muslim Education Show. আজকে আমরা খুব fortunate and খুব ভাগ্যবান আমাদের কাছে এসেছেন Councillor Puru Miah, who was Councillor for Tower Hamlets, and আমাদের সাথে উনি কথা বলবেন যে political structure of the education system যে আমাদের বাচ্চাদেরকে কিভাবে এফেক্ট হয়, যে স্কুল ম্যানেজমেন্ট সিস্টেম কিভাবে কাজ করে, আর এটার ভিতরে থেকে আমরা বুঝবো যে আমাদের বাচ্চা কাচ্চা যারা ঘরে আছেন যে কেন অনেক সময় ওনারা কষ্ট পায়, যে ডিফারেন্সেসটা কি। তো আর আমার সময় না ওয়েস্ট করে আমি সোজা শুরু করি পুরো ভাই। So quickly just what would like to start with, maybe if you give us a little bit of a background of your time in politics.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. So I'll slip into a bit of Sileti and English.
Amazing.
So please bear with me.
MashaAllah.
So kisu facts Tower Hamlets. So Tower Hamlets, my background really is that আমি 2018 সালে Councillor আসলাম Tower Hamlets Myland Board.
আচ্ছা।
2022 সালে I stood down.
MashaAllah.
So side বছর experience inside.
MashaAllah.
But I've been living in Tower Hamlets for 20 years. So on 20 years. Both my children were born in Tower Hamlets. They went to schools in Tower Hamlets. So Tower Hamlets is facts us, and Tower Hamlets has the largest Muslim community in all of Western Europe, UK. Oldest as well, probably 400 years continuous. East India Company taken শুরু হয়েছে, তার headquarters আছে City of London, তার warehouses আছে East London, আর প্রায় আমরা মানুষ আইতা। So that's the relationship between, say, Tower Hamlets Muslim community and the Bangladeshi Muslim community 400 years. So Tower Hamlets are factually in a majority community is Muslim community, faith-wise. Largest ethnic community is Bangladeshi.
Okay.
The pride, the thin bag or ek bag Bangladeshi. Musliman hishabe Torilaka, you could say 10 bag or side bag Musliman. So that's the facts. But kisu facts that আমরা টেলিভিশনে আলোচনা হয় না, এগুলি দেনে যে জায়গাত প্রায় ধরে রাখা 90% of the children are Bangladeshi or Muslim. All the decisions in the schools, major decisions in terms of their education, from head teacher to senior management, is non-Bangladeshi, non-Muslim. Even if you look at the board of governors, majority non-Muslim, non-Bangladeshi. And you can say, what's wrong with that? And what's wrong with that is if you look at the outcomes. So প্রত্যেক বছর during exam time, আমরা television program channels হোক না বাংলা টিভি হোক তারা একটা program করবা দেনে how wonderful আমরা পুরো টাইমতে how wonderful they're doing in terms of their education. But that's just half the picture, because you're just showing the success stories. But what the other half is not showing is an education system that's failing half of our children. For every 2 children that go into our education system in Tower Hamlets, one is being served, one is not being served. And the outcome will be after the Thames Magistrate local court গেলে প্রায় প্রত্যেক দিন বেফনো গ্রিন স্টেশন তাহিন আসামিরে আনা হয়। আর আপনি যদি লিস্ট পড়েন প্রায় আমরা পুরোটাই বাংলাদেশি, মুসলমান, young, and you could see how they've been failed, because when they ask basic questions about nationality, they don't even know what that is. So it just shows that someone went through an entire education system. When they ask what is your nationality, they give Bangladeshi, even though they were Bengali. Ethnicity rather than say I was born in British, etc. And that's the same with the white children as well. when they ask him what's your nationality, they go white. Do you get it? So, and you see that in the prisons as well. Then under a Muslim or Bangladeshis are disproportionate higher than represented. So they're like a Muslim, like say 5% of the population UK, and 25% of the prison population, 20% to 25%. Majority who are there were born, going through the education system, etc. So there is a basic question that needs to be asked. Then why is it that the children are being failed?
Right.
Why is it that and we need to look at the facts on the ground. Who are making the decisions? Do they really understand our children or our background, etc.? And to be honest, they don't. Actually, we had the discussion as a councillor as well, where they have something called the Hamlets Educational Partnership, where I propose that we stop the funding until they have Bangladeshis on the board. They had one Bangladeshi who was a caretaker. What does a caretaker know about education? Just to make that up. And you see that there's a board of governors, etc. There's a lack of representation, and the reason why representation is important because there's no empathy. You don't understand what the children are going through. You don't understand their background, and we need to work with the background of the children. And I'll give you an example why that is important. So I worked on a campaign called the Community Language Campaign Service, Bangla Teaching in Tar Hamlets. So one of the Bangla teachers narrated a story to me why it is important to learn Bangla and to know your background. So there was a father, it was actually in South London, they used to run a school in South London. And the father narrated a story. One day his son came back from primary school and told him that he learnt in school that Bangladesh is a backward country, that Bangladeshis or Muslims are backward. So when the father heard that, the next day he didn't take his son to school. He didn't take it. So obviously it's illegal not to send your children to school. It's something you could be taken to court. So the next day the head teacher had a meeting with the father, with the son, asking him why didn't he come back to school. So the father he asked his son to explain where they were, and then the son said that the father took him around various landmarks in London, including to see the crown jewel, and he told him where they came from. That came from Bangladesh and the Indian subcontinent, and the son said, you told us that we are a poor backward country, but we're not. It's a lie, because all of this you got from us. So that shows the importance of perspectives. Okay. And if you see people as backward, if you see people as inferior, then you will treat them that way, and then the outcome will be that.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's important.
Absolutely. And just for our viewers, একটা সিচুয়েশন হয়েছে যেটা উনি যখন কাউন্সিলর ছিলেন, একটা বাপ ওনার সাথে এসে কথা বলেছেন যে ওনার ছেলে একদিন স্কুলে থেকে এসেছে, আর ওনার ছেলে ওনার বাপকে বলে যে আমার টিচার আমাকে বলেছে যে তুমি তো বাংলাদেশি, আর বাংলাদেশ হচ্ছে একটা ব্যাকওয়ার্ড কান্ট্রি, তোমরা তো একটুখানি পিছনে। আর এটা যখন ছেলেটা বাপের সাথে কথা বলেছে, ছেলেটা নিশ্চয়ই স্কুলে খুব ইনসাল্টেড ফিল করেছে, অ্যান্ড বাপ কিছু বলে নাই। কিন্তু এই দেশে নেক্সট ডে বাপ ছেলেটাকে স্কুলে নিয়ে যায় নাই, আর তারপরে হেড টিচার ফোন করেছে, তো বাপ বলেছে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে আমরা মিটিংয়ে বসি। তো হেড টিচার যখন বাপের সাথে আর ছেলের সাথে ওরা একসাথে বসেছে, আর হেড টিচার বলে যে তুমি তো কালকে স্কুলে আসো নাই। তো বাপ চুপ ছিল, আর ছেলেটা বলেছে যে হ্যাঁ, আমার বাবা আমাকে লন্ডনে ঘুরিয়ে নিয়ে গেছে, আর এই লন্ডনের ভিতরে যে কোন কোন জায়গা যেখানে বাংলাদেশিরা ওর ইন্ডিয়ান সাবকন্টিনেন্ট থেকে আমরা কন্ট্রিবিউশন করেছি ওইটা সব আমাকে দেখিয়েছে, ইনক্লুডিং যে ক্রাউন জুয়েলস, যে কোহিনূর ডায়মন্ড, এটা কিন্তু ইন্ডিয়া থেকে এসেছে। আর এইসব জিনিস, এইসব কন্ট্রিবিউশনস বাংলাদেশি মানুষ করেছে টু লন্ডন, টু দ্য ইউকে, যে কোন কোন হিসাবে এই টিচার বলেছে যে বাংলাদেশিরা ব্যাকওয়ার্ড, যে এই সব আছে আর এইসব আমাদেরকে শেখান না, হতে পারে টিচাররাও বোঝে না। অ্যান্ড আই থিঙ্ক এখানে যেটা আপনি যেটা বলছেন ইজ দ্যাট দের ইজ আ ডিসকানেক্ট, যে এখানে যখন 90% non-Bangladeshi teachers are teaching 90% Bangladeshi kids, এটা ভিতরে যে অনেক failures হচ্ছে। And অনেক সময় what's happening in our communities is that আমরা যারা ভালো করছে ওই 50% ওদেরকে সবাই সুনাম দিচ্ছে যে হ্যাঁ এনার ছেলে এটা করেছে, এনার ছেলে এটা করেছে, কিন্তু যারা ভালো না করছে ওদের খেয়াল কে করছে? And I think that's your primary question, is that what happens to the children that are being failed by our education system? Who is caring for them? What are their opportunities? And I think, were you a magistrate? Were you working?
I worked in the courts, criminal justice, so I've seen the impact of it. The impact of a bad education system, of people unprepared. So basics in it, like cause and effect, they don't understand that.
এটা একটুখানি আপনি একটুখানি খুলে বলেন যে কজ এন্ড এফেক্ট একটুখানি।
কজালিটি দেনে আমি এক জিনিস বাদ জিনিস করলে একটার আউটকাম হইবে কি বাদ, ও মানুষের লগে কিলা ব্যবহার করা, এটা তারা বুঝে না। সো
আর এই শিক্ষাটা কি অনেক সময় স্কুলে হবে নাকি এটা ঘরের থেকেও?
It's a combination. আমরা দেখতাম হইব দেন আমরা let's look at the reality of many of our houses. Dad has to work 2 jobs, cabbing or security guard, gore nai. Mom has to do job as well. Mom has to keep the household run. When you have issues with finances, etc., your mind is not working, and you're living in an overcrowded house, etc., etc. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have to ask those questions to change the situation. It's very good blaming people. So I mean, but they don't understand the conditions. But these things should be picked up at school as well. And they're not. And if you care about a child, you'll pick it up.
No.
But if you don't care about a child, you'll ignore it.
এটা একদম 100%। আপনারা যখন যারা ঘরের থেকে এটা আমাদেরকে ওয়াচ করছেন, পুরো ভাই কিন্তু কাউন্সিলে ছিলেন, ম্যাজিস্ট্রেটস কোর্টসের ভিতরে, সিস্টেমের ভিতরে অনেক দিন ধরে উনি কাজ করছেন। এই সময় নিয়ে আপনি আমাদেরকে ফোন করেন, আমাদের সাথে কথা বলেন, আর ওনার যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে ওনার জন্য প্লিজ আপনি আমাদের সাথে এনগেজ করেন, তো আমরা এটা ভালো মতন আপনাদের সাথে ডিসকাস করতে পারবো। অ্যান্ড ইউর রাইট, and I think the point you're making is that as human beings, as a teacher, you have a duty of care. Now, and this is within the profession, that I think what you're saying is that একটা মনের থেকে একটা খেয়াল হতে হবে, আর সব টিচারদের একটা খেয়াল হতে হবে বাচ্চাদের উপরে, আর ওই খেয়ালের থেকে বুঝতে পারবেন যে এই বাচ্চাটা কি কষ্টর ভিতরে নাকি না কষ্টের ভিতরে। আর ওই খেয়ালটা যদি না হয় তাহলে তুমি কেন বুঝবে? কিন্তু এটা একটা প্রশ্ন আমার জন্য, যে এই পুরো সিস্টেমের ভিতরে আজকাল কিন্তু মানুষের তো খেয়াল কম, এজন্য সোসাইটির ভিতরে সবসময় নিজের প্রায়োরিটি, নিজের খেয়াল, এইটা কি এডুকেশন সিস্টেমে কি, যদিও আমাদের বাংলাদেশি টিচাররা যদিও আসতো, ওরা কি, আমরা কিভাবে জানবো যে ওদের খেয়াল হবে এই বাচ্চাদের উপরে?
I think it's a general rule of thumb. Human beings empathize more with people who have the same background as them. That's why under community, Musulmanera tara ekelakat, because of sense of community. So that's how a teacher should be. If you look at the schools, they were community schools. The school isn't far away in the middle of nowhere. The school is at the center of our community. So, and the idea is that the teachers and the head teacher should be part of that community. And if you go outside of our communities, you see in like the non-Bangladeshi, non-Muslim areas, the head teacher is part of that community. The head teacher does other things. He is part, they know, but you don't have that here.
Why is that?
It's a political decision, because what it is if it's a push for leadership, then you will get that leadership. There needs to be a political demand for it. I'll give you an example. Because these senior positions are very political. Because if you're a head teacher, you're in charge of multi-million-pound budget, you're managing hundreds of staff, you have a lot of influence. So unless there is a political push, a demand from the community, it'll just replicate itself. People like continuity rather than change, thinking that that's the way it is. Unless we as a community say, no, we want change, we want people in the leadership, we want our school leadership to reflect the children, then it's not going to happen. There needs to be a demand for that, and we need to, and it's not working. If you look at you just have to go to Bethnal Green Police Station, just you know, or go to Thames Magistrate, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a public building. Go up there. I think court number 3 is where Bethnal Green Police Station. Just look at the list. You have names and date of births and postcodes, and just look at who's coming in. Yeah, and that shows that it's not working. You know, you go out at night, you see people hanging around in street corners. You know, it's not working.
Could there be an argument that this is because of lack of opportunities?
No, there is opportunities, because in Tar Hamlets Ekta situation that there's more vacancies than unemployed people, but they're not having people. The local people don't have the requirements to fill those vacancies.
And that's what the education system is saying.
That's what it is. So there is opportunity. I think what it is it doesn't have to be that way. That's what it is. It should be. It's not a request. It's a duty of schools to reflect the community that they serve. It's not a request. We're not going with the begging bowl. And we should be asking, why is it not? That's a natural thing. A school should reflect the community it serves. Why isn't and we have plenty of teachers. So you can't say that under Oshikito community. So why isn't they becoming head teachers? We have enough lawyers in our community. We have enough accountants. Why aren't they in the board of governors?
No. We have a caller. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Rahmatullah. I've just tuned into your show.
Assalamu alaikum.
I was listening to the Akhi mention his thoughts about the education system. To be honest, I'd like to say the education in this system, in this country at the moment, it's segregated. You've got the haves who've got an education system for their children. They've got all the facilities, all the resources, all the opportunities, and you've got then the schooling for the children who come from, have not demographic backgrounds. It doesn't seem to be working. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is those leadership roles that Aki is referring to. If you look at political and economic situation of the country, mean, we've got leaders that have come up through the education system that have, are meant to have everything with regards to educating to become leaders. And if you look at the state of the country, nobody has any confidence in our political and economic leaders. That is something that's on the record. So our education system, to be honest, is broken, and I think everybody needs to go back to school.
No, that's a very, very, very insightful comment. We've just got another caller, so I'm going to take that caller, and inshallah I will translate a little bit of what you've said. Assalamu alaikum, caller 2.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is about our Hamlets. In around 2003, under the then Labour government, it was Tony Blair who was the Prime Minister, a lot of funding came into Tower Hamlets schools. So, and we saw some of the schools transform. Mulberry School, which is now the Academy, the Bethnal Green Academy. Many of these schools suddenly was producing A-star students. Sir John Cass was like one of the best improved schools in the country. So I wanted to get your sense, Councillor Saab, of where you think this trend is. Have these schools continued to improve? Because there was a lot of talk about Tower Hamlets having some of the best schools in the country. So that's my first question. And my second question is a political one. That was a Labour government. And all the time, we Bangladeshi people, we Muslim people, we were pushed to work with the Labour Party because they were giving funding to the poorer people in society like we were. But nowadays, it seems like we're being pushed to go to other political parties due to issues around family, LGBT, and I don't really know where to stand on that, and if you had any advice for us how to engage with the politics. So those are my two questions. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for two brilliant questions. We will touch on LGBT in another show, but firstly, if we quickly touch on the questions that the caller has about the advancement of the school system from 2003 onwards. And just to kind of let you know, we've only got 2 minutes. So if you want to just touch on it and then we go for break.
It's a glass half full or is the glass half empty? That's what it is. Yes, there has been improvements, but is it enough? That's what it is. We shouldn't settle for scraps as a community. That's what it is. Yes, Mulberry School, St. Paul's Way, all the academies have improved, but what is the cost of it? How many children do they kick out of their school before they take the exams? Yeah, where do those children end up?
Right.
I was the councillor for Miah End, so I know about St. Paul's Way.
And tell us, where did they go?
And they end up going to these remedial PRUs.
Purus, yeah.
And then they end up in the problems with the criminal justice system because this orientates towards results. And what I'm saying is no child should be left behind. That should be the motto in our community, that every child matters, not just the ones who happen to get an award from a Shomiti, etc., or in the newspaper, or be on Channel S or other community channels. Every child matters. We need to look at what's happened to those children who've been deliberately moved away from these schools, etc., like Mulberry. And an academy is a private institution.
Yes.
It's a business.
And I think at this point, এটা আমাদেরকে একটা খেয়াল রাখতে হবে that অনেক স্কুলিং সিস্টেম যে বাচ্চারা অনেক সময় দেখা যায় যে এই স্কুলটা খুব ভালো করছে, কিন্তু ওইটা কেন ভালো করছে এটার ভিতরে অনেক গোপন কথা আছে। ওইটা আমরা ইনশাআল্লাহ ব্রেকের পরে আরও একটুখানি ডিসকাস করবো that how is it that some schools appear very successful and what are the methods they've done to become successful, and it's not according to Puru Bhai, all is not as rosy as it seems. So inshallah আপনারা আমাদেরকে জয়েন করেন ব্রেকের পরে and আমরা এটা ভিতরে আরো একটুখানি বেশি করে ডিসকাস করব। আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু। Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you and welcome back. And today we have with us Puru Miah, who was ex-councillor for Tower Hamlets. আমাদের কথা আজকে হচ্ছে about the education system and how it's affected in Tower Hamlets. And we had a very interesting call before the break. And the follow-up question from there is, what can we do in order to instigate or create a change today? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I want to go back to what the brother said. And একটা জিনিস লিখে মঞ্চে হইলো Tower Hamlets ব্যাপারে আমরা এখানে আলাপ করলাম. Tower Hamlets is a canary in the coal mine. There's a very large Muslim community. So eventually other areas would be like Tower Hamlets if you look at the population projection. So Tower Hamlets is you will eventually have it in other areas. That's why it's a good case study to look at, but also it's a good place to bring solutions as well.
Okay.
So that's why I know in other programs, Tower Hamlets like an and that is why. And because it's important in terms of the Muslim community and it's in terms of the Bangladeshi community. But how do people engage? First thing is, you have to get it out of your mind that people who make decisions are going to do the right thing. People who make decisions will make the decisions that preserve their kursi or their status. That's it. They don't. That's the fact of life. That's a natural law. People look after their own interests. You have to force people who make decisions to make the right decision. You have to, and how do you do that? By presenting facts. As long as we stick to facts, no one can attack you. If you give them a fact, then the person has to address it. If I'm just a resident of Tower Hamlets, if I go to Tower Hamlets Council and say, you are failing 50% of our children, look at the exam results, they have to give an answer. They have to give an answer. That's how we engage. But if I go and say, I feel you're corrupt, I feel you hate us, these are just feelings. And if you go with feelings, then you let the decision maker off the hook and you give him the chance to attack you as well. Saying you're crazy, how come no one else is saying that? So they could shift the debate. So how we engage in terms of politics, how we engage in terms of making demands, we need to find out what the facts are and address it and raise it. That's my advice.
যেটা পূর্ব ভাই যেটা বলছেন যে আপনাদের যদি কোনো কষ্ট হয় আর যদি কোনো প্রবলেমস হচ্ছে সিস্টেমের সাথে এডুকেশন ওর যেটাই হতে পারে, কিন্তু এটার উপরে যদি অ্যাক্ট করতে হয় এটা ইমোশনালি করা যাবে না, এটা ফ্যাকচুয়ালি করতে হবে। অ্যান্ড এটার ভিতরে কিন্তু একটা প্রবলেম হচ্ছে যে অনেক সময় আমাদের যেই সিচুয়েশন আমাদেরকে যখন এফেক্ট করে, সো ফর এক্সাম্পল ইফ মাই সন ইজ ফেইলিং, ইটস অ্যান ইমোশনাল ইস্যু, right? My son's failure at school, my son being arrested, this is an emotional issue. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not someone that's going to be able to go and do all this research. Like you said, I'm a taxi driver, or I'm a caretaker, or I'm a housewife, or I understand things as they affect me. I understand that my child is unhappy. I understand that my child is going to court. I don't speak English that well. And then it's a very big ask to say, right, give me the facts, go and present it as facts, because I can't. What do I do?
We need to come together, speak to other parents. If you're not happy with the way things are going in your school, people go to the school gates, ask other parents, see how they feel about it.
But they might be the 50% that their son is doing well.
Well, right now, but anything could change. And then the other thing is, that's the thing. Like, ask the way is you go to school gate, speak to other parents. Are they happy about the situation? And if you feel that there's a consensus, then sit down. There's loads of places people who go for education advice. I think the Muslim Council of Britain has an education committee. They deal with teachers, etc. They're based in Tower Hamlets. Speak to them. There's all these parents groups as well on Tower Hamlets parents based around East London Mosque. So there are organisations there. Or speak to the Muslim teacher in the school, or find and we've got so many teachers in our community. Go and speak to them. Go speak to them. A lot of them run after school clubs as well. So they are active. But I think there needs to be a general demand. I think the issue is that I agree with you. It's a chicken and egg question. The issue is that, look, it's not working. We need to come together and we need to make it work. And that wide platform doesn't exist unless we raise those questions. And that's why I'm here, to raise those questions. Are you happy with a coin toss in terms of your child in the school? Heads or tail? Heads, he succeeds. Tails, he fails. Are you willing to send your children to a system that does a coin toss?
আমার মনে হয় একটা প্রবলেম যেটা অনেক সময় আমাদের হয় as parents is that we may be dissatisfied, and হতে পারে we've spoken to the school, we've spoken to the governors, তারপরেও কিছু হচ্ছে না. I think what it'd be really valuable যে if we have access to someone like you that's been in the system and you can give us advice and help us to kind of understand how the system works, because that's one of the biggest struggles, that we don't have access points. But we have a caller. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you, sir? What's your question?
I have a question for both of you, a very simple question. Ustaz Adel, maybe from an Islamic perspective, and Councillor Puru, maybe from a political perspective. What is the purpose of education? What is a sign that we have succeeded in our task of educating our children?
Wow, mashallah. It's a
I could give from a political perspective.
It's a big question. What is the purpose of
the purpose of education? Is from a political perspective, is we are citizens in a country or a community. The purpose of education is to equip each and every person to be a full citizen, to participate in society, to participate in the decisions, participate in the debate, shape it. And that's why education is free at the point of use, because every person needs it in order to fully participate in society. And when an education system doesn't allow that, then it's failing, especially 50% and cannot. And we see that in our prisons, we see that in the courts, we see that in all the other issues, so like things people don't want to talk about. You see a disproportionate number of our children involved in those issues. So they're not participating as full citizens.
I think
so that is the purpose from a political perspective. Why do we have free education? Because you need education to be a full citizen, to participate in society, contribute to society, either economically or through debate, through your own views, or other ways.
And what about if you take it from the Islamic perspective? How do you shape that? That what is the purpose of education? As a Muslim, for your children, for our children, we're always concerned that how is my child in this education system going to become a righteous, good Muslim?
Well, it's not a conflict, because we want our children to contribute positively. As Muslims, we're seen as ambassadors. So we want to contribute positively to society. I think there is an attitude I've come across in certain parts of Muslim, if it doesn't affect me, why should we care about it? But you live in a society, your children, and you should be contributing positively. We should go with the framework that we want to leave this society or this place or this community that we live in a better situation than we found it. And that's what I'm saying, that we as a Muslim community do not live in isolation. Allah has given us an ethical system that shows us the way. Let us actions speak louder than words. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's about daitto, right? Taking responsibility. And I think what you or যেটা আপনি করছেন এখানে is that a society, a community জন্য আপনি গ্রহণ করছেন যে আমি ওদের খেয়াল করব, ওদের জন্য ভালো করব, ভালো মন্দ চিন্তা করব, আর উপরে যারা আছে, যারা ওই খেয়ালটা করছে না এই কমিউনিটির উপরে, ওই খেয়ালটা আমি করব, আর ওদের সাথে আমি এনগেজ করব, আর ওদেরকে আমি চেষ্টা করব যে কিভাবে আমাদের কমিউনিটির খেয়ালটা ওদেরকে যেটা করতে হবে, যেন ওদের যে কুর্সিটা যেটা আছে ওইটা হচ্ছে ওদেরও একটা দায়িত্ব আছে, আর ওই দায়িত্ব হচ্ছে যে এই মার্জিনালাইজ কমিউনিটির উপরে খেয়াল করা। আর এখন যদি ওইটা ওরা ঠিক মতন যদি না করছে, তখন আপনি যে ওদের সাথে এনগেজ করছেন।
But not marginalized community, all marginalized people.
Okay, sorry.
So that's what it is. So the issues that affect the Muslim community, the Bangladeshi community, affect other communities that are seeking justice as well. And we need to not just be concerned about our community, but concerned about everybody who's in the same situation as us. Because if we provide a solution for our community, that could be replicated in other communities. But it's a simple demand. That's what I'm saying, that it's a simple demand that we want our schools leadership to reflect our community. Who makes a decision in the school? The senior leadership team, head teachers, and the board of governors. And it's a simple audit we can do, and we just need to put that demand in. Are you saying that we're backward? Are you saying we can't read or write? Are you saying that we're not lawyers, we're not accountants, we don't run businesses? Are you saying we can't run a school budget? There's so many teachers. Are you saying none of them are good enough to be a head teacher? So what is it? What is it that actually, why isn't it not happening?
In Tower Hamlets, in some of the schools that the caller discussed earlier, what percentage from these schools would you say the teachers are Bangladeshis?
If you look at the head teachers in the secondary schools, not a single one is Bangladeshi.
Not a single one across Tower Hamlets. Okay, and what about in terms of senior management or classroom teachers? What percentage is there?
If 90% of the children are Muslim, then you would expect that to be reflected in the senior management team. It's the opposite. You get it? If it does happen. So that speaks volume. And we need to ask the question, why is it not happening? We didn't suddenly just fall out of the sky. We've been around for 40 years or more, 400 years if you look at the history book. So why isn't that institutions that we pay money for through our taxes, why are they failing our children? Because if you look at the outcomes, I'm not talking about success stories, let's look at the people who are not succeeding, and institutions that don't reflect our community. You're paying for it, we demand it, and we didn't come out of the sky.
And so you've raised quite a few very important points and questions, and what I'm curious about is, what is your opinion for why you think this is happening?
I personally think that there is a subconscious bias. It could be conscious or unwittingly, where people see Muslims as backward.
Right.
So I think Edward Said talked about Orientalism. He wrote a book about it, where to justify, it came out of colonialism, where to justify bad treatment towards Muslims, you perceive them to be backwards. So, and it's a self-justifying loop. We're treating them badly because they're backward. So it justifies your action, and you perceive them to be backward.
And where do you think this comes from?
I think that's a hangover from that, because if you have a genuine question, there's fear, suspicion of Muslims. That's what Islamophobia is. You know, believing an irrational fear of Muslims. That's what it is. And if you have genuine discussions, we'll just listen in the conversations. You see that there's this fear of our community, and they feel like they should, the institutions should not be, given to members of our community, if in terms of leadership, etc. It's an irrational fear, and we need to address that. Say, look, it's illegal. A lot of councils have passed the Islamophobia definition, and therefore it looks like Islamophobia is at play. I'm not saying there is, but we should say it looks like it. Let's go and investigate.
Okay.
Are you not recruiting Muslim teachers into senior team because you fear that they have another agenda? Is that what it is? Let's have a discussion. Let's look into it. Why aren't they not coming through? Why are they not being promoted? Why are they not being interviewed? Why, etc., etc.
Okay, quite a few very important points. যেটা পুরু ভাই বলছেন যে একটা ইন্টেলেকচুয়াল ছিলেন এডওয়ার্ড সাইদ, উনি একটা বই লিখেছেন ওরিয়েন্টালিজম, আর ওইটার ভিতরে উনি যেটা বলছেন যে ওয়েস্টার্নার্সদের একটা ইরাশনাল ভিউ, যে ওরা মনে করে যে মুসলমানরা or people that come from Asia and Africa are backwards, যে ওদের মেন্টালিটিটা অশিক্ষিত, ওরা আমাদের মতন না, আমরা অ্যাডভান্সড। আর এই চরিত্র নিয়ে, এই আইডিওলজি নিয়ে ওরা যখনই মুসলমানদের সাথে ওরা ডিল করে, এটা হচ্ছে ওদের ব্যাকড্রপ, এটা হচ্ছে ওদের আইডিয়া। আপনি যখন দেখবেন ওরা ইমিডিয়েটলি মনে করছে ও তো একম, আর এই হিসাবে আপনাদের সাথে ওরা আমাদের সাথে ওনরা কমিউনিকেশন করে। তো যখন পায় যে একজন শিক্ষিত ওনাদের সাথে কথা বলছে, ওরা অনেক সময় সারপ্রাইজড হয়ে যায়। আর ওইটার জন্য তো এটা হচ্ছে পার্ট অফ দ্য প্রবলেম, যে কেন অনেক যারা শিক্ষিত মুসলমান টিচাররা ওরা ইন্টারভিউ পাচ্ছে না। এই জন্য ওদের একটা ভিউ পয়েন্ট আছে যে তোমরা এরকম। আর এটা ভিতরে থেকে যেটা পুরু ভাই বলছেন যে আমাদেরকে ইনভেস্টিগেট করতে হবে যে এটা কি অ্যাকচুয়ালি ইসলামোফোবিয়া নাকি না। এটার ভিতরে যে তোমাদের এরকম চিন্তার ধারণা যে তোমাদের যেটা আছে, এটা কিন্তু নিয়ত নিয়েও না নিয়ত নিয়েও তোমরা কিন্তু একটা বায়াস ক্রিয়েট করছো।
আর if someone sees Muslims backward amongst their staff, then how do you think they're going to see children? And how do they, if they treat their staff badly, not giving them promotion, not supporting them, how do you think they're going to treat the children?
Yeah, no, totally. And of course, like, I appreciate these are your personal views, and you stand.
These are questions that I'm asking, and these are from reflecting in the facts. And that's.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the questions you're asking are coming from your own personal experience of having witnessed your time in politics. And
as a councillor, and I know you played quite a very active role, and you're very much involved in the grassroots and really helping a lot of the community. And I think this is what's emerged from this time, is this viewpoint, and you've got very clear ideas of what you've seen and how you want to help the Muslim community grow forward, and the challenges that you've faced and the challenges that other Muslims will face. And I think that's what you're drawing light to. When I say that these are and these are your personal views, in the sense that this is what you've understood, this is the wisdom that you've kind of come away with from your time. What advice would you give to future aspiring councillors? First of all, you go in with the right intention. আমরা একটা মিস্টেক আছে আমরা কমিউনিটিতে এজেন্ডা নাই
Right.
If we and it's আমরা community we have to put priorities. আমরা agenda kita আমরা community. How do we want our community to be? And if you just put someone in the town hall without an agenda, then they'll be working towards someone else's agenda. There's no such thing as a vacuum. And under politics, under this person is like me. He'll look out for me. That's a very naive way. You have to hold people to account, saying we're electing you because of this. You have to do it. If you don't do it, there's consequences. And that's how we should treat politicians. Treat politicians like you would treat a machine.
Right.
Do not assume that they will do the right thing. So that my advice would be, if someone wants to be a councillor, do it. Think about what benefit you want to bring to your community. And if it's about, I want to bring benefit to myself, then you don't you don't belong in a leadership position. You'll do more harm than good. And that's what it is. A lot of people believe that, if I go in there, I will fix it. You're doing more harm than good because you're working towards someone else's agenda. You're going in there blind and you're working towards someone else's agenda.
What is the agenda? যে আমরা কোন নিয়ত নিয়ে ঢোকার উচিত?
Because we want to improve our community. Let's look at the facts. Facts is disproportionate in prison, disproportionate involved in drugs, disproportionate in bad housing, disproportionate number not doing well in school. And this is the thing that people say, national average, we're above the national average. It should be higher than that. We should aim higher than that. We should be the best.
Absolutely.
Do you get it? Ihsan, why are we like average? I always, whenever, I don't care about average. I want that's what we should aim for.
Amazing, mashallah. Thank you so much. Just একটুখানি আমি পুরু ভাইয়ের উপরে আমি যদি একটা কমেন্ট দিই, এটা হচ্ছে যে আপনারা যদি চিন্তা করছেন যে কোনো পলিটিক্যাল পজিশনে যাবেন ওর কাউন্সিলর হবেন, প্রথম জিনিস পুরু ভাই বলছেন যে নিয়তটা একটুখানি চেক করে দেখেন, যে আপনি কিন্তু খুব নিজেকে একটা খেয়াল করে দেখতে হবে যে আপনি কেন করছেন। আর আপনি যদি এটা যদি আপনি আল্লাহর রসুলের জন্য যদি না করছেন, যে ওনাদের কমিউনিটির জন্য যদি না করছেন, এটা কিন্তু একটা খিদমতের কাজ। এটা হচ্ছে বলা যায় যে ইউর আ সার্ভেন্ট। অনেক সময় মানুষ কিন্তু এটা ভুল ধারণা, কিন্তু যে ডোন্ট গো ইন অ্যাজ আ লিডার, go in to serve people, go in to do khidmat. আর এই নিয়ত যদি নিয়ে যান তাহলে ইনশাআল্লাহ you will definitely be successful. And Allah will place barakah in this work because it's not an easy job. And we pray and make dua for those of you that are going for this type of job, that Allah makes it easy for you, keeps your niyat pure, and আপনারা ভালো থাকেন। ইনশাআল্লাহ আবার আমরা কথা বলবো। আমার নাম আদেল মোজাম্মেল, আমার সাথে ছিল পুরু ভাই। আর আজকের জন্য আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু।
Assalamu alaikum.